You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. If you're not subscribed, make sure you download and subscribe to all of our shows for great Patriots content every day. Tonight is the Patriot Nation Podcast, of course, with me, Pat Lane, and my man, Matt St. Jean. And Matt, the Patriots are now 2-0, killing it, absolutely killing it right now.
Look, wins are wins. I mean, these aren't real wins. Look, for the second straight game, the Patriots starters matched off against the opponent's second and third stringers and looked better than them, which I don't think you get points for doing, but you don't lose points for that either. That's part of the course. And honestly, that this game was, apart from a couple things early, this game felt pretty uneventful.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's interesting, though, is that what the heck year was it? Was it Bills last year where they where they started their players and their opponent didn't start any of their players and the Patriots starters looked like absolute junk against the other team's backups?
I'm pretty sure that was the game in Vegas against the Raiders where it was the Patriots are trying to install outside zone right now against third stringers, and they can't. They're losing yards every play. With
Josh McDaniels, right, against McDaniels, and they just couldn't do it. And it was like, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah. It was bad. So at least they look good or at least competent against backups. And I know it's mostly backups, and I know it's a lot of vanilla stuff, but offensively, you're getting a lot of vanilla stuff as well. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I honestly will say that I think what we've seen has been pretty good. I think there are some things to walk out of happy about. And I think that's okay. And look, I thought I'm not going to go back over the week from, joint practices, but I thought overall, when you kind of take the whole snapshot of what they did this week in Minnesota, I thought it was a productive week in Minnesota.
Hopefully. Well, I do think, the productive stuff is going to be what happens in the meetings and stuff going forward.
Right.
I do think, the disappointing fact about this week is that the day where you have an awful day is the second day of joint practices, and the Vikings don't play starters. So you don't really have an opportunity to take lessons learned from getting your asses kicked and trying to fix that, at least against an opponent that's real in front of people. So, and, from here on out, like, training camp itself is done. We've got, is it 9 days now? 10 days? 10 days until roster cut downs. It's like
26th, right? Yeah, 26th. Yep.
Yeah, 3 weeks until the season starts. So we should be at the tune-up period of this at this point. I think. I mean, I can't imagine a whole lot of roster spots are going to be won in that game against the Giants next week either, especially on such a short rest. It's like it kind of feels like the competitive part of this is of the offseason's done.
I mean, you got to kind of feel that way a little bit, and that's one of those things, and we'll get into kind of some nitty-gritty discussion here, but I think overall today was the day, right? If you were going to make a roster push, today was the day you had to make that roster push because the Patriots and the Giants both played today. So they're both coming off a short week. They're both playing on Thursday night. They're not going to turn around and say, all right, we're going to play our starters. I wouldn't be surprised if a good portion of the team doesn't even travel to New York. And I think that's maybe a little egregious, and most of the team will travel, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few people that don't even travel to New York.
With Vrabel being the big culture guy, I think he'll have everyone there.
That's a good point.
Especially because it's close. If they were going to Minnesota this week, you might have guys not traveling. But
that's a fair point. And I also will say the other part of it is that the last 2 weeks, right, there's been 30 plus inactives for the two teams the Patriots have played. That has not been the case for the Patriots. I think that's what you're going to see on Thursday is like 30 guys inactive and just starting out there with the backups.
Do we want to? I think a great exercise to do right now, which would be a good combination of ups from this game and looking ahead, is
Yes.
We can call this the bubble wrap award.
Yes.
Which players we put in bubble wrap? We don't need to see any more of them this preseason. We know what we got. We're feeling good.
Yeah, Trayvon Henderson. See you later. I don't want to see you. Don't want to see you again. Kyle Williams, I think, is in that boat just because he got dinged up today. I don't want to see him at all. I thought he made some nice catches. Even that catch where he got hit, it's a nice hands catch in traffic. I think he's shown enough. And he's going to make the team anyways, right? But like, I think I'm not trotting him out there for sure. Even if it's not a concussion, I'm still not sending him out there on Thursday. There's no reason to do that. Drake May, no thanks. See you later. We're good, buddy. I don't need to see you anymore.
I'm okay with one series of May if you just want to say that he played and go let him hand it off 3 times.
Yeah, maybe.
Or like make a throw, but like I don't.
Not putting him in harm's way.
No, I think we go back to Trayvon Henderson for a second here because I think he's the all-star of this right now, especially if we look at the top 4 draft picks for the Patriots, all offensive guys. That feels like a group that we can evaluate as a group. Henderson's been, I think, by far the best player of those 4. And questions about Campbell because he had an off day the other day, and Jared Wilson might not be a starter anymore, and Braden Swinson's repping with like the third. Or sorry, that's going too far down the draft. Braden Swinson's repping with the third team though. Kyle Williams you mentioned getting banged up today. He's played well, but he's not getting the football. Henderson has played well. He's getting the football. He looks incredible. He looks like the best running back on this team right now. We haven't seen Stephon Diggs, so of the guys we've seen, he looks like the best skill player.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think you have to manage his load to a degree because you don't want to kill him all in 1 year. But he seems like a guy you should have touching the football as much as possible in games that matter, and don't play him. Don't even have him. Don't bring his jersey to New York next week.
No. I think the Jahmyr Gibbs trajectory for me, like Gibbs is first year touched the ball 12 to 15 times a game. Like that's what I want out of Trayvon Henderson because he has the big home run ability. I'm not just gonna run him into the line, right? Like I'm gonna scheme touches for him. I'm gonna get the ball to him in space. I'm gonna try to get him on a wheel route against a linebacker, or find a spot, where a linebacker is going to have to cover him because they're in man coverage on third down, right? And that's where he's going to have a chance to win and then really kind of break those big plays. And so, I want to limit his touches a little bit, mostly because I think Ramondre, we'll see what Ramondre can do because he's been a little banged up and whatever. But I think the combination of Ramondre and Antonio Gibson is a solid combination for running the football. And so I don't need Trayvon Henderson to touch the ball 25 times a game because I have those other guys that can run the ball well. They're not as explosive as Henderson is. They're not as much of a home run threat as Henderson is for sure. But they're competent running backs that can run the ball between the tackles at a consistent pace. And so I can do that. And then I can bring my home run hitter in as well and get him, again, like I say, 12 to 15 touches a game. And that might account for 100 yards. And I could certainly see where, he's getting 12 touches, but it accounts for 100 total yards in a game. And now all of a sudden, and that's a huge dynamic piece of their offense.
Yeah. And he just looks, he jumps off the screen. There aren't other guys on the field who are as athletic as he is. And you literally saw that on his first play. Well, I think what stands out with Henderson, obviously the acceleration does, but it's his balance and his core strength that show up, I think, all over the tape. His touchdown run today was, obviously the acceleration to burst through the hole, but the vision to find the hole and the balance to stay up, to fight through contact and then get into the end zone, exceptional. He looks like he could be one of the best players on this team, period, this year. And I feel it's weird. I don't know how good I feel about the running game as a whole, just based on the production so far. Because I don't know, it's hard to judge because with the backup offensive line in there late in the game, it's hard to tell exactly how good they're going to be. But like, I have confidence that Ramondre Stevenson can be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Henderson, I love. Gibson's also good. Like, you notice Gibson's not even playing much in these games. He feels like a full-on roster lock, and that three-headed monster, I think, has potential to be dynamic here. And like, you can put multiple on the field at once. I think that's something that is rare in the NFL, to have backs that are good enough as receivers that if you put multiple out there, the defense actually has some conflict about how to handle that. And this team has that because two of those three guys, I think, are really good receivers. And Ramondre Stevenson, when he's been used as, what's the word I'm looking for? In a rotation.
Yeah.
He has shown flashes of being a very good receiving back as well. You go back to that. It was the win in New York, I believe, on Halloween 2022, 2023, where he was like, he had multiple long third down conversions, just taking the ball from Mac Jones on like screens or dump offs, turning that into first downs. So I think that can be a really, really good group for this team this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so I'm excited about that. And then, if you look at the wide receivers, I think, and I wouldn't necessarily say bubble wrap on Chisholm. Afton Chisholm's on the team.
Yeah, he might play because they need someone to be out there on Thursday.
Right.
He's a lock.
I don't need to see anything.
Cold lock at this point.
We don't need to see anything else with him. So, the contact balance that he runs with after the catch, he's not the most explosive guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not, and that's okay because he can win in space when he has the ball in his hands. Now, Nikhil asked a good question. Over under 300 receiving yards in 2025. What do you think?
I would take the under pretty easily, to be honest.
Me too.
Here's the thing. I like Afton Chisholm a lot. I think he has lived up to the hype so far. I think there's probably going to be a ceiling on what he can be in the NFL just because he doesn't have great speed. He will be like, I know people compare him to Edelman. Edelman was someone who was versatile because he had real, like, go look at his testing. He is an athlete. And because of that, he could kind of play all over the field and you can move him around and do stuff with him. Chisholm is a slot only, I think, in the NFL. And I think he can be a good player there, but he's more Danny Amendola than he is Julian Edelman to me. Excellent after the catch. Those two, the chain mover and then the touchdown today, I think were fantastic. But then I think you also look at the way this is going to break down. Like, Chisholm just probably isn't going to be active on a lot of game days because he's going to be the sixth wide receiver, and there's only so many guys you can activate. When guys get hurt, guys get banged up, he'll be in there. He'll get opportunities. He's just not going to play 17 games. He'll probably play 8-10 games this year and get 10 snaps a game in those games. So I just don't think he can hit that. Because Pop is also good. Pop's also a good slot.
Right. Well, so he actually put up, you go back to Julian Edelman, I think it's a really good comp. Edelman ends up playing a good amount is his rookie year, just because they really had no one. They had Welker
and Moss,
of course, but outside of Welker and Moss, they had Joey Galloway who had 7 receptions that year. Like Sam Aiken, they had Sammy Morton. They had no one. They had nobody. So he was their third receiver essentially. But after that first year, after that 2009 year of 37 and 359 is what Edelman did his first year. The second year, he had 7 catches for 86 yards, 4 catches for 34 yards, and 21 catches for 235 yards. It wasn't until 2013 that he became the player that we remember him to be. And I think that
when you're building out the roster for 2013 too, he's your fourth best offensive weapon because that 2013 team, number one guy is supposed to be Amendola because they just paid him. Right. And you've got Gronk number one. And when you're building out that roster for 2013, you have Aaron Hernandez. Right. So Edelman's like, okay, this is a nice rotational piece. And then Amendola gets hurt week 1 and he bursts on this team.
And remember, Edelman comes back on a veterans minimum deal. Nobody wanted him, right? And so my point is that it's going to take it's going to take something to get him on the field. I know that people are excited about Chisholm, and I don't blame you for being excited about Chisholm, but you cannot convince me that he's a better wide receiver than Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas,
Kayshon
Boutte, or Matt Collins. You just can't. I'm sorry. You cannot convince me. Now, I think he's done enough to deserve a spot on the roster, and I think that he can develop into a decent player. But as you said, he's not going to play a ton this year unless guys get hurt. It's just not going to happen.
And that's because I think for the first time in a while, the depth chart at receiver looks respectable here.
Yes.
Pop had a drop today. I think that was just a miscommunication with he and Drake May. If you watch that play back, and I think it's on May, Pop settles into a hole in the zone a little bit and slows up to kind of present himself as a target. And May thinks he's going to keep on running the route full speed. So May just puts a little bit over his head. And, I think if there's a real weakness in Pop's game, it's going to be he doesn't have a big catch radius at all. So, maybe, but Chisholm doesn't either.
Doesn't either, right.
But I do think there's a world where Pop falls out of favor with the coaching staff. I think you probably see Diggs move into the slot, and you're going to have, two of Boutte, Hollins, and Kyle Williams as your outside receivers, or you're going to see more Austin Hooper, things like that. And then the other thing working against Chisholm right now is that he's a good special teamer, but he's behind Marcus Jones, a punt returner. He's not going to beat out Marcus Jones as a punt returner.
Although
not better than him.
The McCourty today was hysterical when McCourty was like, "How did he not fake out the punter?" And just like,
so funny.
that was so good, so good.
Yeah. And none of this is to be negative on Chisholm. Just realistic about what his role will be for the 2025 team. His role for the 2025 team is making the roster, being really good depth, who will probably give you great snaps here and there in that role, with an eye towards kind of impressing everyone in the building, proving throughout the season that he deserves more playing time, so that when you go into 2026, he is part of the plan at receiver. And speed's not the end all be all at wide receiver either. We see a lot of guys productive in the NFL who did not have great 40 times. Just still pretty bad by that metric with his speed. But I think he's tough, he's physical, he's got great vision, he stays up, elite short area quickness against at least the guys he's going up against, and he deserves some real reps with the ones here with Drake May to see what he can do against those guys. It's just unfortunate that we don't know when that opportunity is going to come. It'll come in practice, but outside of that.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right, is that, as you mentioned, the wide receiver depth chart looks a heck of a lot better than it did, because remember the last few years, we couldn't get good players on the roster. Now I'm feeling like, and Jeremiah Webb and John Giles aren't great players, right? But John Giles played very well today, I thought. He had a really nice block on the Chisholm touchdown. I thought he had a few really nice catches. I think he's a really good practice squad, guy. But
he and Webb both.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but those are guys that the last few years, they'd be pushing for real roster spots because just the receiving core was so bad the last few years. Now the receiving core is a lot better. If Efton Chisholm's walking into this team last year, he's probably the second or third wide receiver on the team, right? He's starting. So so that's one of those things where you looked at it and said, Tyquan Thornton stuck around for 3 years because our receiving core was terrible. That's how bad we were.
I want to make a side note here because I thought it was interesting. I was watching some other film the other night, just kind of going around the league to check up on some rookies and see how they were playing. I pull up the Chiefs tape, and I see 2 and 9 out there next to each other. 2 is Tyquan Thornton, 9 is Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, my
with
Lord.
The starting offense for the Chiefs. These guys playing ahead of Xavier Worthy in some of these formations, which might not reflect the depth chart. But Tyquan Thornton made a really nice catch on an RPO the other day, which I did not expect to see. It was like a outside his frame hands catch in traffic, showing great balance. A lot of the Chiefs writers are loving him right now. Now, obviously, we've seen this before and how that can go into the regular season, but he hasn't gotten hurt yet, and he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, and he's rotating in with the starters. So, shout out Tyquan Thornton. Oh, maybe
you never know.
Puts it together.
Listen, I do have that bet going on. that I made. I don't know if I mentioned here on the podcast, but I said if he gets 600 yards receiving, I'm going to run a 5K in a Tyquan Thornton Kansas City Chiefs jersey. So
I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to be safe, but I would feel less comfortable about that right now than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. But we'll see. I think so. Getting back to the Patriots wide receivers, Javon Baker is a guy that I was really strong. I was really kind of adamant that Javon Baker was making the team.
He had a bad day.
And he had a real bad day. And I look at it and say, okay, Marcel Style is out for the year. Does Miles Battle make the team? Does Jordan Polk make the team? Are those special teams guys? Mm-hmm. Or does Javon Baker get that last spot? And what it seems to me like is that Javon Baker is going to get a spot on this team. And I thought what I thought was, okay, he has some upside as a wide receiver and he plays special teams. I think he's got almost no upside as a wide receiver at this point. He can't catch the ball, can't run a route, and can't catch the ball. And, he plays special teams, but like Jordan Polk's playing special teams too. And Jordan Polk's played well. Now, again, no one's going to confuse Jordan Polk with an all-pro corner or anything like that. But but he's played special teams as well. And he's shown up a few times. He made a really nice play, on that long kick return today to save a touchdown and, and save the Patriots 4 points. They ended up with a field goal on that drive. So, it's one of those things where it feels like Javon Baker is not fighting for a wide receiver roster spot at this point. He's fighting for a special teams roster spot at this point. And maybe that's enough. Maybe he's done enough to kind of earn that. But man, it's, Mike Larry says Baker brain freeze. I mean, it's just like, you can't drop the amount of passes he drops and expect to make the team. It's, you
gotta make plays to make this team, especially because if we're going back to the bubble wrap awards here, I think you could, if you wanted to put 6 wide receivers in bubble wrap right now.
Yeah.
And it's, you can keep 7, but it becomes an uphill battle at this point.
Right. Right.
And Baker, I think there's a couple spots to be won here at depth, like you said, with special teams ability combined with, ability to play the position to round out the roster. And thought Baker had the inside track there based on how he played against Washington and the way he played today. Not good enough. And Jordan Polk played well. I thought Jermichael Hasty played well on special teams and looks good as a running back too. And he's been with the team, so he's serviceable. He's a replacement level player, and he can play special teams. You're going to get out of him. So I think things look a lot tougher for Javon Baker than they did yesterday. I was going back and forth. For anyone who knows Carter Donick on Twitter, just a very popular account, he was talking about how fast things change in the NFL, how a year ago Javon Baker was kind of the analytics darling for a lot of people, steal of the draft in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And now today, you don't even know how he's going to make the roster. And I was got into a conversation with him. I was like, hey, it might look like things are rough for him. This is, beginning of the game, but coaches like him. He's got special teams ability. He's still got that upside. I think he's going to make the roster. And it was like an interesting conversation. And then I had to circle back an hour later and be like, oh, he just dropped 2 passes. So forget everything I just said. I think, and I don't want to overreact to today. I think he can still get his way back onto the roster. I expect he's going to play a lot on Thursday.
You would think.
Yes, you have to make the most of that. You have to make plays in that game. If there are roster spots to be won, it's going to be 50, 51, 52, 53. Baker's in contention for one of those still. I think he just went from being on the right side of the bubble to the wrong side of the bubble today.
Well, I think that kind of and someone mentioned Anthony Jennings in the chat here, and not to necessarily bounce to the defense, but it's the exact situation that Anthony Jennings is in right now. Anthony Jennings has played till the end of the game, but while he actually didn't play the end of the game today, but he played all the way to the bitter end last Friday night, right? And then he played he played after halftime into the fourth quarter today. And what does he do? Comes up with 3 sacks, makes his presence known and felt across the field. And so what does that do? Okay, well that says that you put me out here and I'm going to make plays while I'm out here. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to 100% earn a roster spot, but I'm going to prove to you that when I'm on the field, I can make plays. And Anthony Jennings, who has been, in my opinion, one of their best edge defenders, certainly, against the run. Now it's a new system, and the conversation has been he does not really a fit for the system, and maybe he's not there. But like, has Truman Jones or Elijah Ponder really beat him out for a spot? I don't know if they have. And do you feel good about being able to keep one or both of those guys in the practice squad and keep Anthony Jennings instead on your active roster? And I don't know if he did enough today to kind of show that. But I think what he was able to show was that, hey, I can rush the passer too if you need me to do that. I can penetrate and get upfield if that's what you want me to do. Just give me an opportunity to do it, right? And I think that you have to take those reps as an opportunity and do the best that you can to show the coaches that you can do that. And when you do that, when you're Anthony Jennings, when you're John Giles, when you're Jordan Polk or Miles Battle, when you're these guys that are fighting for a roster spot, you have to prove that you can do it. And I think that, Jennings is a guy that I love, and I know we've gone back and forth about maybe he's not on the roster, maybe he is, but this is exactly the type of thing that we're talking about. If you're going to win a roster spot, you have to take advantage of those situations, and he did that today.
So I'm gonna invent another award that we can give out here, and we're gonna call this the J.C. Jackson Giants preseason game award, which is who are the guys who could make the roster, but they need to have a great performance in that final Giants preseason game, because that's what Jackson made the roster. What do you have? 1 pick, 2 picks in that last game, and
I think it was 2, but
he went from being a guy where it was like, I think this guy's got like a 45% chance of making the roster to a roster lock, kind of all in one night there. Today's performance may have put Anthony Jennings into J.C. Jackson Award watch, because the question's not about if he's a good player. The question is if he's the right fit for this team.
Right.
And I still think he's such a weird person in this, because he's a good player, he's tough, he's physical, he's a great leader, got all these attributes that Mike Vrabel would love, but not a great penetrator, and he gets hurt a lot. And those are two kind of cardinal sins for the Mike Vrabel way of looking at things here.
Right.
But also, you got to put 53 guys on the roster, and even if he's not a great fit, he just still might be one of the best 53.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other edge defenders that fall in this category. I would put Truman Jones in this category. I would put Elijah Ponder in this category. I don't know how many edge defenders they want to keep. 4 locks: Keon White,
right,
Harold Landry, Caleb on Chase, and Braden Swinson. After that, you could keep 1 or 2 more if you want, because these guys tend to play special teams, and you can never have too much defensive line depth. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to make you put them on the roster. So I'd put all 3 of these guys on J.C. Jackson Award watch, because with a good game, they could be a guy you just can't move on from.
Right. I agree. But Jermaine's asking about Keon White. He didn't play today, did he? I don't think he played.
I thought he played early. I thought he played the first 2 possessions when the starters were out there.
Maybe you're right. Oh, what didn't play was Barmore didn't play today. You're right. The Keon White was out there.
And Harold Landry played today, which he did not against Washington.
Yes, he played for a series or 2.
And listen, fumble. It wasn't a fumble, but he did knock a ball out.
Yes. And I think, too, you look at, Braden Swinson hasn't done anything, but you're hoping that he develops into that. You kind of knew with the drafting of Swinson that it was going to take a while. And so you're waiting on that. You drafted him in the 4th round. You're not cutting him, right? So he's gonna make the team. And it's a question with the other 3 guys, and I think if you're cutting a guy, if you can only keep 2 of those guys, and you want to try to keep all 3 on your team,
then you keep Anthony Jennings.
You have to keep Anthony Jennings, because if you cut him, you're not going to get him back. Whereas if you cut Truman Jones or Elijah Ponder, there's a chance you can get one of those guys through to the practice squad. And I think that's kind of could be the rationale there. Now, maybe they get picked up, who knows? But I think that, that's the way I would use to justify it. I thought he played great today. I thought Truman Jones was pretty good at times.
He's got some real Truman Jones has some real quickness to him.
Yeah.
So on some of those bootlegs and stuff, he gets after the quarterback if he leaves one block.
He had a really nice play. Him and I believe it was Epps had a really, really nice play on that rollout play, right? Where it's like a fake to the left and then they roll out to the right and they just run a guy into the flat. Epps did a great job of covering it and Truman Jones got right in the quarterback's face and it just forced a throwaway on third down. It's just that they had no chance to complete it. And I think that, that's one of those interesting things for me. So Truman Jones looks good and we'll see what happens. There's a long way to go. Not really, but it's like, those decisions all have to be made. And I don't know. I'm looking at it saying, I don't know. I don't know. Does Jordan Polk deserve it or Truman Jones? I don't know, Yeah. And I guess then the real question becomes, how do you feel about the depth at either position? Like, I feel really good about the depth at corner. I feel good about Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, who played today well, right? And I feel good about all 5 of those guys. Right. So I'm not necessarily worried about the 6th corner. Right. I'm not concerned that we're going to need, another 6th cornerback out there. And I also think too that Jordan Polk and or Miles Bauer are guys that can end up on your practice squad. Right. And so I'm not as worried about that. Whereas I can see edge being a place that we could use some depth at, because even if you have a top 4, we haven't seen much from Swinson. I don't know if he's ready to play yet. So is Truman Jones further along than him? I think so. And so I would rather have Truman Jones or Anthony Jennings out there than Braden Swinson right now, even though I'm keeping Braden Swinson on the roster for sure. And so that's kind of
probably not a great sign for Braden Swinson that he is.
I know
he's like firmly 3rd team guy.
Yeah,
playing the late in games. I think I expect a little bit more from him.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. You're just hoping that he can develop, Yeah.
Well, I think you look at the way that they're going to play football and the strengths of this roster and where the good players are. I just don't think there's any reason to keep more than 5 corners. 5 corners, 5 or 6 safeties, and that's your backfield. And you're going to play a lot of 3 and 4 safety looks this year. That's fine. Or you're going to kick Alex Austin inside, who I think is a great potential fit there.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if we have an award I can name after this, but Kyle Duggar to me is someone where I just don't. The more he plays, the worse it gets. Kyle Duggar can't play more than like 5 to 7 yards away from the line of scrimmage right now. He just can't do it. He's not mobile enough. It's not working for him. Maybe as he recovers from that injury last year, some of that athleticism comes back and he finds this game again. But our lads lists 7 safeties on the Patriots roster, and I think Kyle Duggar has the worst tape of any of those 7 so far in the preseason.
Which is wild. Yeah.
I don't think you just eat the money and cut bait unless you feel good internally for some reason about him bouncing back to form at some point, but it's not a scheme fit. He's not played well for 2 consecutive years. He's not playing well now. He's coming off an injury. You're going to have to pay the money one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather just cut bait, move on now. And, Del Pettis, I think, has shown some stuff. He has brought energy, and I'm interested in seeing what he could be.
Yeah. I totally agree. And Deshaun saying that he's never been athletic or mobile enough to play safety, and that's completely false. Duggar was an absolute monster when he was good. He's not anymore. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if he lost a step from an injury. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is.
He had that ankle injury last year that he tried to play through.
Yes.
So for the record, Kyle Duggar had a 9.56 relative athletic score. So that's like what I think that means 95th percentile athletic score for
it's really good.
Safety. He used to be an elite athlete.
Yeah. And and the tape was there. He made plays. But he just he just looks really bad. And at this point, I just don't know how you can put him out there. And so maybe some team looks at it and says, yeah, we will take a shot at him. But I just you just can't have him out there. And you're probably not going to get anything for him in a trade because he's getting paid. And so this year when you have the extra money to burn, just get rid of him and clean house and say, you know what? You're out of here, and then go from there, and
I
And move
also
on.
one Duggar. I think is someone who's respected in the building, and I think you show him the respect back by saying,
Yeah.
it's not going to work here.
Right.
Go find it somewhere else. Go somewhere where you can get a full opportunity. Because having him sit as your fifth safety, being a healthy scratch for all but like 5 games this season,
Does nothing.
it doesn't benefit anyone.
Yeah.
Go let him try to find it elsewhere, rehab a little bit more, and it is what it is. I don't want to rub it in too much because he's been a good player for this team, and it's not an effort issue. It's just not playing well. So
Yeah.
yeah, tough for him. I think another position on the defense, I don't know what they're going to do with here. And maybe this, I think if you're going to keep Kyle Duggar, this is probably your answer. They have 3 linebackers that I think can make the roster right now. They got 2 others that could, but are injured. So that's a big question mark.
Right.
If those guys can't play, you only got 3 linebackers, and you want to say we're going to keep Duggar around and we're going to convert him to linebacker, we're just going to have him be a run stuffer. Maybe. I mean, I saw him make the right play and totally whiff on a tackle in the backfield today.
Right.
So that's, I still have some real question marks there. But, maybe that's his path forward.
Right.
Do that.
That's the only thing I can see working, because you watch him in space and you're looking at it like, what the hell is going on here, man? He just doesn't have it anymore. And so putting him at the line in that inside linebacker spot to say, go find a hole and go get it, could work. It worked a few times today with him blitzing off the edge. But the hard thing is that, you're not asking him to it's a totally different position. Now it's read your keys and do that and so on and so forth. And it's just he just doesn't do that. And so, that's going to be a challenge for him to do. Now, maybe you're looking at saying, we don't want to get rid of him because we like him around here and we want him here. Then fine. You can make that transition if you want, see if it works this year. And if it doesn't, then you can cut bait next year. But, outside of that, I don't see a really a good reason for taking a shot at it, unless, as you said, you're just all right, we like him here. Let's see if we can make this work. But I would not feel good about it working. But, you never know.
Yeah, well, as a rebuilding team, there's going to be some roster spots here where it's all right, I guess that guy's on the roster.
Right.
Until they flesh out some of this depth. So,
yeah.
Do we want to take a quick ad break and then?
Yes.
I think we still have some things on offense to talk about.
We do. By the way, before the ad break, I'm seeing some stuff about Wolf, and I've seen a lot of stuff about Wolf. And it's now Elliot Wolf is getting, and not that Elliot Wolf hasn't been getting crapped on for a while, but Elliot Wolf is still one of the guys making the decisions. The rookies look good. The signings from this year look good. So you can say he doesn't get any credit for that, and it's all Mike Vrabel, and what he did before had nothing to do. But they had 1 year of drafting that was him and Gerard Mayo, and it was a disaster outside of Drake May, obviously. But what they've done this year has been pretty impactful and pretty good, and they scooped some guys up off off teams' practice squads last year that turned out to be pretty good. They also hired a special teams coordinator. That's pretty darn good last year, right? And so you can't at the same time give him no credit for the people this year and put all the blame on him from last year. It just doesn't that's frustrating. And I'm not saying he's the greatest GM of all time, but come on.
I just don't think he deserves this much flack on the Duggar thing. Most of what's happened with Kyle Duggar seems to be post-injury this year. That's where you saw the biggest drop-off. And, it wasn't great last year, but this is much worse than that. Sometimes guys get hurt and signings look bad because of that, and I'm just never going to blame a GM for that unless there was an injury history they knew about, but there wasn't with Duggar.
Right.
They re-signed Duggar. He was coming off a down year, but the expectation was he would bounce back because he had played so well the year before that. That just didn't happen. So, it is what it is. I think Wolf deserves a lot of criticism for some of the things he's done. This is not near the top of my list.
Right. Right. All right, anyways, okay, let's get to our ad break, and then we'll get back to the offense because we got a lot to talk about. So this ad break, of course, is for Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Yes, football is back. And you can just make your lineups full of football. And with the preseason going on, who the heck knows when there's going to be games? There's games on Tuesdays and Sundays and Saturdays and all random sorts of days. So it's great. It's great. You can make lineups all the time. And my favorite feature about Prize Picks is that you can use multiple different sports in the same lineup. So use a few football guys, use a few baseball guys, use some women's basketball girls, take some esports people if you'd like. You can do all sorts of things, which is great. Again, Prize Picks does offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and many others for quick and easy withdrawals and deposits. What you're going to do is put in the promo code CLNS, and when you put in your first $5 lineup, you're going to get $50 instantly. Okay? So, oh, by the way, Tuesday, don't forget, this Tuesday is Taco Tuesday, 15 to 25% discount on all on selected player projections on Tuesday. So don't forget about that. But once again, download the app Prize Picks, put in the promo code CLNS. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay. All right, so offensively, by the way, just kind of funny because someone mentioned, it's just kind of funny that the Patriots, and I tweeted this out earlier, and it's just like, it's kind of wild. The Patriots receiver room that we talked about is like significantly better than it's been the last few years, and it feels like all those guys are competing for spots. Jeremiah Webb and John Giles and Efton Chisholm and all these guys that are like fringe roster guys are all fighting for spots. And it feels like the worst 2 players on the list are Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. And it's kind of wild.
And maybe Kendrick Bourne. We haven't seen him. We don't even know what he is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's, the room's still not great. It's probably like the 26th best wide receiver, 24th best wide receiver room in the NFL. It hinges on what Stephon Diggs we get.
Of course.
But the depth is better, I think, than it's been.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the guy who's throwing them the football?
Yes, we should do that. I thought Drake May looked okay today. Yeah, he didn't play a ton, but I thought he looked okay today. He had some high throws. Again, we talked about kind of that miscommunication with Pop Douglas. I think it's on. I tend to agree with you that it's on May. He sits down in that spot, and that's an easy spot. Right, you can see it, and then he just kind of throws it, expecting him to keep running, but he's running into traffic if that's where he's running. So that doesn't make any sense. And then he had the high throw to Matt Collins as well. Now, he also kept a few plays alive. He had the sideline throw to Matt Collins, which was a nice one. I thought his best throw of the day was the throw to Travion Henderson. I know it was incomplete, but like that wheel route, that throw was outrageous. And he almost made an unbelievable one-handed catch, but he had like 3 inches of a window, and he fit it in that window. And those are the types of throws that if he can make those on any type of consistent basis and guys can come down with those catches, like you're talking about, to the moon with his offense.
Yeah, no, I think he started to settle in. I think May's probably a little bit more inconsistent right now than we would love to see. But we're also we've seen 4 possessions, right? 4 possessions, I think. So, as we watch him more, we'll get an idea of, all right, are these throws end up high? Is this 1 out of every 3 throws you make or 1 out of every 20 throws you make type of stuff? Right now, we have no sense for that.
Yeah.
I thought, one of the good plays he made, that just getting out of the pocket and getting that ball to Mac Hollins along the sideline, throw could have been better. If he reads that to the left side, he may have also had a touchdown to Kyle Williams.
Right.
But the defense that they showed you pre-snap and then what they showed you post-snap, just from those 2 things, you're probably never going to look towards Kyle Williams on that. And then he gets flushed to the right. Once he gets flushed to the right, you're just not throwing back to the left side.
Of course.
So that's, I think that's just unfortunate. could have been a touchdown, and you'd love, that's an A+ play if he makes that. But that's still an A play to move the chains and get that ball to Hollins. And I do think you also see with Hollins what he brings to the table. He's big.
Yep. Yeah.
Really big catch radius there.
Well, there's a lot of hate online for Mac Hollins. I personally don't understand it, but
he's a strange human being. So
yes.
I get the polarization about him as a person. It's a football player. He's like as bog standard as it gets. He's a big body wide receiver 4 who's experienced.
I think what I'm happy about with Mac Hollins and what I like about Mac Hollins is that he's like our 4th option at wide receiver. I like the fact that he's our 4th wide receiver, right? I think that he can be valuable to you at times. The problem we've had the last few years is that we've had guys like Mac Hollins be our number 2 option, right? Or 1. And you're just like, that guy can't be your wide receiver number 1. He's not good. And I think you have to do it sparingly. And I think that they're able to do that. It looks as though they're able to do that with the personnel they have. Now, of course, guys get hurt, things work out, things don't work out, whatever the case may be. But I think that Hollins being your 4th and maybe even sometimes 5th wide receiver, I think he can be a valuable player for you and catch 40 balls this year. 30, 35, 40 catches this year is not unbelievable. But he can make a few catches a game, and like you say, he has that big catch radius. He's a really good run blocker, and I think that I'm cool with that.
He's almost like a move tight end the way you're and I think I think they kind of have a wide receiver 3A, 3B thing going on right now with Hollins and Booty.
Yeah,
and you start the season that way, and you see how the guys play, and then you adjust playing time from there. Hollins, I think you're going to see in more running situations, and Booty you're going to see in more passing situations just based on their skill sets. I bet Booty probably outproduces Hollins is my guess because they're going to throw the ball more with him out there. So I don't think Hollins ends up with a ton of production. I just think he's a really good glue guy. People seem to like him around the team, and he does all of the dirty work. So he just raises your floor, and you can put him in for specific things. And I said it before. If Mac Hollins was a signing in the Tom Brady era, people would be gushing over an addition like that for what he'd be able to do for you.
Yeah.
He's a good player, and he's a replacement level player, probably.
Right.
That's the way to say it, with who's useful.
And the fact that you have a depth guy in your wide receiver room that's replacement level good is a great thing because you haven't been there in quite some time.
Well, I think in an ideal world here, by the end of the season, Kyle Williams has fully emerged as your wide receiver 3, Booty's your 4, Hollins is your 5. And Hollins is basically going to get reps sometimes down near the goal line or short yardage, or he'll get 1 or 2 possessions in a game just to give guys a breather, things like that. Or play when guys get hurt because you're not going to have all 53 guys stay healthy for 18 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I feel decent about where the wide receiver position is at. And then bringing it back to May, it sounds like he has handled the pressure incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the offensive line has given it up. That for as bad as the practice was against Minnesota on that Thursday, it seemed like May still delivered the ball pretty well to guys. He still had a decent day, all things considered. So I feel good about where he is. I don't know if he's going to get into that top 10 quarterback in the NFL conversation yet, just because of supporting cast, and I think still some stuff he's got to work out in his game. But can he be the 15th? Yeah, 100%. He can be the 15th best quarterback in the NFL this year. And that's a step forward from where he was last year, and you go from there.
Yeah, I agree. His backup, though, Josh Dobbs, he's just not – he's not a good player. And I think the big thing for me, what I see from Dobbs is his ball placement and his ability to make the play is just not great. What I will say is that to have, and McCourty talked about this on the broadcast, but to have a guy that can mentor Drake May, I think is important. And to have him kind of helping him along. I think that that's important. And so I want Josh Dobbs as the backup quarterback. But, and we've talked about this before, but like Ben Wolders looked pretty good today. Now, again, he's inconsistent. He's, but for me, I look at it and say, okay, well, Josh Dobbs can do it. He knows what it is that you have to do. He just can't physically do it. He's not physically good enough to do it and make the throws, but he knows what has to be done. That's all I care about for my backup quarterback, right? If Drake May goes down and gets hurt, then you're just saying, all right, let's just see if we can get a win with Josh Dobbs. And if we can't, we can't. I don't really worry about that. We're not trying to win the Super Bowl this year. I'm not concerned about that. I'm trying to make Drake May the best player he possibly can be. And I think if Josh Dobbs can be a good role for him, in the room, I think that's important. And if you want to, have a rookie undrafted free agent next year, sure, do it.
Question: is Josh Dobbs better or worse than 2004 Rohan Davey?
Oh God, probably better.
Okay, well that's if we were trying to win a Super Bowl this year, it's fine if Josh Dobbs is the backup. Like,
right.
If you're winning a Super Bowl, your starter is going to be the one that does it anyway. Very rare situations does the backup come into play. Josh Dobbs is not a good quarterback. Probably middle of the road backup. But that's where he is. I thought he was substantially better than Woldridge today. I thought Woldridge started out okay, and then
he fell
all over the place.
Yeah.
Both Dobbs and Woldridge threw hospital balls today. Dobbs does it to Kyle Williams, and then Woldridge threw a nasty one to Giles that got him flipped over the middle of the field. Yeah. The reality is that starters throw hospital balls. Finding a backup who never throws a hospital ball in a preseason game is an impossible ask. That's a quarterback who checks it down so much you don't learn anything about what your team is when they're out there.
Right.
If you like that in your backup quarterback, you can have that. I don't find that useful. Dobbs is fine. I mean, the offense out there when it was that possession where Chisholm scored the touchdown, I thought Dobbs actually looked excellent on that.
Yep.
Finding Chisholm, there's the big play from Chisholm in there is when, for whatever reason, Minnesota blows a coverage. He's wide open over the middle of the field. Dobbs finds him right in time, hits him in stride, and he can go run with it. No, I think by the standards of a backup quarterback, Josh Dobbs is fine.
And people have to remember, there's not 32 good quarterbacks in the NFL. There's not even 32. And so, you're looking at saying, okay, well, some teams are going to have a bad player as their starter. And so, how it's not possible. I shouldn't say it's not possible because that's not true, but it's not realistic to think one team is going to have two good quarterbacks at starter. Like, no team in the NFL is going to have their starting quarterback get hurt and then feel good about the guy that's going in after him. That's just not happening.
It's like a cherry on top of a roster or something you luck into by accident.
Or you're the New York Giants and you're starting Russell Wilson and you feel good about Jackson Dart, right?
And they have Jameis Winston. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the only situation where you're drafting a young quarterback and he's your backup. Last year, Jacoby Brissett wasn't good, then was replaced by Drake May. The Patriots feel good about bringing in Drake May. If Drake May gets hurt, they don't feel good about bringing in Jacoby Brissett. So this is one of those things. You know what I mean? And by the way, Jermaine says that we did when we had Brady and Jimmy G. Oh yeah, Jimmy G is a great quarterback. Awesome. Super good. Great quarterback, as everyone knows.
He was good for the game and a half he played in 2016.
He was awesome, yes. But again, and I will say, we can make that argument about Jimmy G, and I'm okay with that. They drafted him in the second round in 2014, right? So even Jimmy G was on the team as a backup, and even if you wanted to call him good back then, which people thought that he was going to be, he was on the team because the Patriots drafted him in the second round, right?
Well, they drafted him in the second round because you had an elite quarterback who's getting older and you're planning for the future.
Exactly, right. As soon as it's time for him to
use a second round pick on a backup quarterback for Drake May next year, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, no.
That's not a priority item.
And I will say at some point, they drafted Ryan Mallett, they drafted Kevin O'Connell, they drafted Zach Robinson, they drafted just throw day 3 picks at some guys and just see what happens. And I think a few of them ended up being, I think Mallett was a 3rd-round pick, and I think O'Connell may have been a 3rd-round pick too. But a few of those guys. But now you're in 09, 08, somewhere around there, where you're just trying to find a reasonable backup quarterback. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's also, we're talking about Patriots teams that were absolutely stacked.
Right.
Where it's like, we can just take a quarterback because it doesn't really matter if he fails.
Right. Right.
Let's look at this. I think the other thing we got to talk about on offense right now. We don't really know who 2 starters are going to be on the offensive line right now with 3 weeks to go until week 1.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Like, we don't know. Left guard and center, I think, are a little bit open right now. Fix it. Right tackle is a big question mark long term.
Right.
These are things that need to be addressed in the near and present future. Wide receiver 1 after Diggs is still an issue. Like, I just don't understand how this fan base gets so riled up about the backup quarterback position when the team has this many other serious problems.
It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, like, I'd like to have a good backup, sure, but I don't care. I just don't. And if if you're telling me you think Josh Dobbs can be a good mentor for him, perfect. That's all I want. Awesome.
I don't even think Josh Dobbs is a mentor to Drake May. I think he's there because you don't have to spend any time with him. You just say, all right, Josh, go do something, and we can work with Drake the whole time.
Yeah, what I mean is that Drake can kind of bounce ideas off of him in the room, right? You're not, like, to your point, you're not trying to teach him anything. He already knows what he needs to know.
Well, like, it's also, like, the Drake and Josh I'm worried about is Drake and Josh McDaniels. Like, that's the priority, and just have somebody else who can, like, get into the huddle if something happens to May, so you can play 17 games to get on to the next season.
Yeah.
And, like, figure out what's going on with the other guys. Can we talk? I want to talk about the other guys in the offensive line.
Yes. By the way, can we just point out it's been 55 minutes we haven't even talked about the offensive line. Like, we deserve, like, that. You got to make up an award for that, because that's like the longest we've ever gone without doing
that. Will Campbell, very good day as a run blocker. Clean sheet as a pass blocker. He went up. Let me just pull up the depth chart here for Minnesota, because I was going through the edge rushers to see who's going against them. Someone named Gabe Murphy, who was an undrafted free agent last year.
Right.
He went against Tyler Batty, who is an undrafted free agent this year. There's someone else he went up against. It was in that same tier too. He's going up against guys who probably aren't even making the Vikings, and he shut them out, which is what you should do. I think, like I said at the top of this about the Patriots, like, Will Campbell doesn't get bonus points for what he did today. He played like you should against third stringers.
Yep.
It doesn't make up for a bad day on Thursday, but it's good, and let's build on it.
Right. And that's I think that's all you can take away. You're going into this game knowing that you're not getting a real test, right? You're going to get a real test in a few weeks when Max Crosby comes to town, but you're not getting a real test right now, right? You got a real test against Grenard, and you didn't do great, right? I wouldn't say you failed necessarily, but you certainly didn't get an A, right?
I think 3 sacks has to be a failing grade. You give up. When's the last time any Patriots offensive lineman gave up 3 sacks in a practice?
That's a fair point. I will say one of those sacks should not be on him, because May should have been able to step up and had the center and right guard and left guard all in his lap.
Fair.
And either way, even if it's 2 sacks, that's so. I think, but I love what I've seen in the run game from him. Bradbury struggled today in pass protection. I know there's that one clip of Bradbury getting just driven back into May's legs. I get it, right? But he looked good in the run game. He's a good run blocker. I thought Marcus Bryant, again, looked good. And again, he's going against backups. But Marcus Bryant has continuously shown that he is a backup level player. I don't know if he's a starting level player. Matter of fact, I don't think he's a starting level player yet. But I think he's a backup level player, and he's shown that he can do it at left tackle and at right tackle. And that's huge, because you need him to be able to do that. I thought Vidarian Lowe looked pretty good for the most part at right tackle today.
Yeah, because I think by his standards, Lowe has been bad at left tackle and
unplayable. unplayable at right tackle. At right tackle,
Yeah,
yes.
and he looked equally bad at right tackle today as he has looked at left tackle in the past, which is an
Right.
improvement for him.
Yeah.
I do think the issues with Bryant and Lowe, neither one of these guys are a plus at all as run blockers. So
Right.
they are depth for, pass blocking only. And then the next guy up is Montre Jacobs, who I think really his biggest strength as a player is he is mobile as a run blocker. So you can pull him. He's not a good run blocker outside of that, but if you get him in space, he's okay. I think he's definitely, now that Lowe is back and how he looked today, I think Jacobs is definitely the 5th best tackle on this roster right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's out. And I don't even know Lowe is going to make this roster. So if Lowe is not, then I don't think Jacobs will.
Yeah. And Lowe, I think, probably will, because you need another, you can't just I really don't want to go into the season with just 3 tackles, especially with Morgan Moses, having the issues that he's had, unless you're going to be able to
pick up someone.
Right. And that certainly could happen. You could turn around and trade a guy like Jalen Polk or Javon Baker to a team that thinks that those guys have upside. They liked them in the draft, and we have a guy we're going to cut, and we'll just swap these 2 guys. But it's, I'm not 100% sure where you're going to go. I feel pretty strongly that Marcus Bryant's going to be your 3rd tackle. Outside of that, no idea. So, yeah, are you worried about that? A little bit, sure. But I think for me, when you have Campbell, who's a plus run blocker, Moses, who's a plus run blocker, Onwenu, who's a plus run blocker, and Bradbury, who's a plus. Well, Onwenu should, in theory, be a good plus.
The Onwenu that we have seen play for us in the past as plus run blocker. I don't know if that's been on tape yet this season.
And I think that Bradbury, is a plus run blocker, and so when you start looking at that, saying, okay, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. Now, is the pass blocking there yet? No, it's not where we want it to be. And,
not close.
Let's hope that Campbell can continue to improve. And again, what I'll say is that Campbell is 21 years old. He's going to be 21 all year long. There's going to be growing pains. It's going to happen. Right? But the question is, does he show you enough at left tackle this year to convince you that he stays at left tackle in the long term? Because, again, you have that hole at left guard. Maybe he moves inside. Maybe Wilson moves to center. But, we'll see. I
would like to note for posterity here that we have not even gotten to week 3 of the preseason yet, and I'm not the one bringing up the conversations about if Will Campbell might switch positions. So
and listen, I'm pretty confident. I'm fairly confident that he's going to stay at left tackle. I think he has. I think that he can build on what he has, and I think he's good enough that he can get there. But again, he has to prove that he can do it, and he struggled against the Vikings. And listen, the Vikings are a really good football team with really good people were like, people got mad at me for saying that Grenard is like a top 5 or 10 edge rusher. And I'm like, look at the last 2 years. He had 80 pressures last year. 80. That's an insane amount of pressures. He's a very, very good pass rusher. You still have to be able to win. Because you're playing left tackle, you have to be able to win. And if you can't win against those guys, then you can't play left tackle, right? And so, again, I think
not long term at least,
right? And I think I'm gonna give the kid, I'm gonna give him 2 years. In my personal opinion, I feel like he needs the full 2 years until I make a full assessment on him.
Yeah,
but if he does, and I think he can improve significantly. Yeah, he's only 21. But if that's what we get from him, then he's not the left tackle of the future. I think he can grow from that, and I think he is the left tackle of the future. But we have to see it, and we haven't seen that yet outside of the pass rushing, outside of the run blocking reps that we've seen, which have been awesome. And I think he brings the right intensity and the right attitude to the team. I think that's huge. But again, I feel like to make a decision on him one way or the other at this point, I think is foolish. Again.
Oh, yeah. looking at the rest, like the offensive line as a whole right now, Will Campbell to me is someone who might end up being a top 10 run blocker at left tackle in the NFL this season, and for starters at left tackle might be bottom 5 in pass protection from what we're seeing. Left guard, we don't know who's going to play there. Whether it looks like Ben Brown or Jared Wilson, which Ben Brown being your 6th or 7th offensive lineman, or maybe a starter, is not good. He is a serviceable backup center. I don't really want him to be more than that. He and Will Campbell had a really good combo block on the Trevion Henderson running touchdown today, which was nice.
Yep.
But I'm not moved based off of that from the other stuff we've seen from Ben Brown. And he's also like okay. He's like a D plus all around. Bradbury might end up in that Will Campbell tier where he might be a top 10, top 15 run blocker at center for starters and one of the worst pass protectors there, which is I think what he's been in his career. We've seen the clips, the lowlights of him in pass protection. He also has made some really, really, really good blocks in the running game. So that's just what you're going to have to live with this year. He's the best center on the roster right now. Jared Wilson, I think it's a weird situation right now. He's just raw. And I don't love that he's behind 2 guys that I don't think are very good right now at left guard and center. But these things are very dynamic and will continue to move. So I would hope, based on his abilities, that by the end of this season he is a starter. Because if not, I'm going to be a little bit worried. On a better roster, I wouldn't be concerned that Wilson is not winning a starting battle. Now that it's might not be winning the week one against guys we know are not good players, not quality starters. There's a little bit of worry for me.
What's concerning to me? What's concerning to me is that Wilson had the starting left guard job and seems to have lost it. That to me is more concerning. And by the way, and a few guys in the chat are saying that Wilson got hurt. He didn't get hurt. I thought he got hurt. He didn't get hurt.
Well, he was hurt in practice, right?
He did get a little dinged up in practice, but he played in the game. He just didn't play with the starters. And I think
the second string left guard, third string center.
Exactly. Yes. And so what worries me is that he's behind Ben Brown at left guard, and he's behind
Bradbury and Brown
at center. That worries me. Now, the one thing, and again, I don't know if this is true, but the one thing I look at it is what if they looked at it and they said, we think Ben Brown's good enough to survive at left guard with. We know Garrett Bradbury can't last the year at center. So let's work on getting Jared Wilson more reps at center and take away that left guard duty for him. But even then, you're not doing that if in the second team you're moving Ben Brown back to center and putting Jared Wilson at left guard. So that's the issue for me, where it's okay, maybe he's just not. I don't know. This all started when they started playing other teams, right? Before the Commanders came in last week, it was Jared Wilson's a starter. He's better than Will Campbell. Oh my God, he's so great. Blah blah blah. Oh my God, this guy's gonna be the next coming. All this other stuff. And now he's on the bench. It's as soon as we saw another team out there, all of a sudden he was struggling. And it could be because of the different play calls. It could be because of they're doing things differently in those practices. And he struggled in both games. And so, this is something that maybe they didn't see coming, but it's definitely concerning for me. And we'll just see if he can last. My hope, as you said, is that by the end of the year, he's starting somewhere, whether it's left guard or center. My hope is that he's starting somewhere by the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm going to take a big picture look here. Is it too early to be a little bit concerned about this draft class? Because I'm looking through it. Will Campbell, I think, has performed worse in practice than he was sold to be. Obviously, no real games yet, so I'm not going to be too low. Trevor Henderson's amazing, so that's fine. Kyle Williams has the tape has looked good, but he's not getting the football. Gets banged up today,
which isn't his fault. If Drake May is throwing those passes, he has 2 touchdowns, and he probably doesn't get hurt today, right?
Maybe, yeah. I know one of my issues with Williams is that as a tall, thin guy in the NFL, you have more injury potential. I'm always concerned about that, and obviously today was getting headhunted without a penalty. Love that. Thank you, NFL. Thank you, Roger Goodell.
Oh yeah,
but,
no kidding.
Yeah, but I don't know. I had some durability concerns with him just given his frame, and I don't love that there's getting banged up already and the production's not there. Jared Wilson earns a starting job and then immediately loses it to a guy who was not good last year. Craig Woodson seems fine so far. Joshua Farmer and Braden Swinson were guys we thought were steals where they were taken, and they just have been, non-factors might be a bit too negative on it, but really have not heard much about either one of them all camp. And then you got 2 special teamers in Borregales and Ashby. Borregales, I assumed, had everything locked in until today when he missed that kick horrendously, which some of the special teams analysts seem to think that it was both a bad snap by Ashby and a bad kick by Borregales, and they got out there late. But
I have no idea why they got out there late. I don't know if he thought that Romo was kicking it, and then they told him that because he started setting up his routine with 10 seconds left. That's not enough time. And so I'm surprised that Vrabel didn't call a timeout, to be honest with you. So he kind of, he rushed into it. He did hit a 51-yarder later, which is good. But again, yeah, if this were veteran versus veteran, I think I'd give a slight edge to Romo, over Borregales. I think Borregales looked fine.
Had a kickoff today.
Yes.
It had been dead even between those two all camp long.
Right.
I think if we were going to talk about how good these
Chad Allen's warming up from 72 in Denver, but
which is in Denver. He likes getting in Denver too.
But still,
if we were to look at their draft picks based on expectation, just how they've performed based on that, Henderson's obviously number 1 just because of how well he's played. I think number 2 is Marcus Bryant. And number 3 right now would be Craig Woodson. Jared Wilson's could be number 2 on this list, could be number 4 on this list. It's really hard to judge what anyone thinks of him right now and how well he's actually going to play. And this is all very preliminary stuff right now anyway, because none of this is real yet, and they have to start playing real games. And a number of these players are young and developing, and you expect them to be better by November than they are right now.
Well, and I think that's ultimately the point with Will Campbell, because you draft him at number 4 overall, you want him to walk in and be your best offensive lineman instantly. And I think that at times he has, and at times he hasn't. And I think that, the expectations of being a top 5 pick, it's a little bit unfair, but that's what comes with the territory, right? I think that if he can be, and again, I've kind of said this a few times, but if he can be that, 15th best left tackle in the league, I'm walking away from this season saying that's a great success. This kid's 21 years old. He, I think has a bright future ahead of him. And if he's already the 15th best left tackle in the NFL, I think that's a great sign of things to come, right? And I think that he can grow from that experience. If he comes out and he's the 32nd best left tackle in the NFL, now I'm a little bit more worried, right? But I think that, that's some of the stuff where, and I also wonder if that's part of the reason why Jared Wilson isn't playing left guard anymore, because they're worried about, they're running twists and stunts. There were some issues with that again against Minnesota. And I wonder if they look at it saying, we really need another guy that's a little bit more veteran that knows what's going on, that can kind of be the stabilizer, and that just be hey, we need to be, this is how we attack this, right? As opposed to 2 rookies going out there and having no idea what's going on. And again, when I look at a twist, for me at least, the twist is always on the guy whose guy doesn't come at him. If I'm looking at the D tackle and he takes a step back, well, then I'm expecting a twist. So I need to be letting the tackle know there's a twist coming so that when the guy comes across his face, he doesn't try to block him. He lets him go. He gets a hand on him, lets him go to me, and then goes to get that guy on the twist. To me, it's on the inside guy because, again, Campbell has to protect his inside. Right? Now, he might think that maybe that guy might be looping around, but if the guard doesn't say anything, well, who knows? Maybe he's just rushing in hard off the edge. And, so anyways, this is one of those things for me that, like, I think maybe they just needed some more of a veteran presence in there. I don't think you're necessarily jumping the gun here because I would like to see a little bit more out of some of those guys. I really would have liked to have seen Borregales be, I'd just like to feel better about where he is right now, and I don't.
I feel significantly better about Borregales right now than I felt about either Ryland or I don't remember the other kicker's name who we took in 2020.
No, he never even made Roar roster. Never even went to camp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like I do feel like whoever wins this kicking battle will be a decent kicker. Like I do think if there's a situation here where as a franchise you draft 3 kickers in 6 years and none of them stick, that's awful. Because I think we're the only franchise that has drafted 3 kickers in this quick of a succession. By the way, I just went back to 2018 because I was curious. And with PFF data, I could not find a single Patriots offensive lineman in that span who allowed 3 sacks in a single game. And just looking at Campbell and joint practices this week, it was 1 or 2 on Wednesday and 2 or 3 on Thursday. Right. And that's probably about 1 game's worth of combined reps between those 2 games against starters. Just an estimation here. It could be more, could be less. I don't know. But either way, even against a quality defense, that's a lot more pressure than you would like him to be allowed.
Of course. Yeah. But you know what, though? For me, at least, it's practice. And I want him making those mistakes so that he can learn off of those mistakes, right?
I'm going to be honest. I'd actually just prefer he never made a mistake in the first place. Take him number 4.
Obviously. But that's going to happen. No matter what we do, that unfortunately is going to happen. And, it is what it is. And we kind of go from there. But, yeah, the offensive line, I'm worried about the guards, man. I'm worried. Mike Onwenu has been a shell of himself. Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do with left guard. And then again, Garrett Bradbury, as you said, like, he's a good run blocker. He's a terrible pass blocker.
No anchor whatsoever.
Right. And so can you survive without that? I just don't know if you can. Again, the middle is where the quarterback needs to step up. Like the whole thing, if you're trying to beat me with speed around the edge, this is where like that the sack I think that Will Campbell gave up when May's got guys in his face, he can't step up. And so as a tackle, a left or right tackle, if you're using speed against me, all I'm going to do is use your momentum and push you out of the way. So you're behind the quarterback. Well, if the quarterback can't step up a foot to avoid that rush, then you push him right into a sack. And that's not on the left tackle. That's on the interior of the offensive line. Of course, it goes against the left tackle or right tackle, depending on who gives up the sack. But it's caused by the pressure up the middle. And I think that's – so for me – they have to be able to have guys that can pass block in the middle, and I just don't know if they have that. No. And that's a real concern for me. I know Drake May can run really well, and that's great, but ultimately, I don't know what they're going to decide. And Bradbury might be the guy that sticks at center. They might end up choosing to put Ben Brown at center and put Jared Wilson at left guard. They might just say, screw it, put Jared Wilson at center and put Ben Brown at left guard and see what happens. Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah. By the way, I want to address this general type of comment. Nikhil saying we shouldn't judge a 21-year-old for struggling against the best edge rushers. I do think I can in particular be a little bit nitpicky about Will Campbell at times. We know my history on this podcast. Right. I also think it's worth mentioning that Will Campbell getting paid $43 million guaranteed, was picked number 4 in the NFL draft, has played 3 years of football in the SEC. This isn't, the average 21-year-old, and the expectations are not that of the average 21-year-old. And I'm sure he's getting quite a lot of criticism from the coaches for, some of this stuff, if it's as bad as it's been reported in the press. So, and it's not. Will Campbell's a really good run blocker. I think if you moved him to guard, he'd be a really good player there. I had questions about that. I don't really have questions about that anymore. I really like what I've seen from him as a run blocker. I think he's been just downright dominant. His core strength and agility in space has been incredible. But you paid him this money because you expect him to be good at this thing, and so far he's been, worse at the thing that is most important for a left tackle to be good at than a lot of people expected him to be at this point in the process.
Yeah, and listen,
he could be better at that tomorrow, but when it's not tomorrow yet.
And that's totally fine. I will also say Joe Alt, who we had this conversation many times, and Murph, I know, is a huge Joe Alt guy, and I had said, if I was going to bet my life that one person from the 2024 draft was going to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it would be Joe Alt. That would be the guy that I would bet. Last year, he had his overall PFF grade was a 77.6, which made him the 20th best tackle in the NFL by overall grade. It's pretty solid, 20th best tackle. His pass blocking grade was 79.4, which made him the 24th best tackle in the league. And his run blocking grade was a 71.6, which made him the 31st tackle in the league by run blocking. Right.
And for context, he did all of that switching sides from left to right.
Correct. He allowed 6 sacks as well last year. And so, which is good, 120th out of 140th. So he actually allowed more sacks than 119 other players, which seems wild to me, but nevertheless.
Yeah, no, that's 6 sacks is not great. It's good for a rookie. That's fine for a rookie.
Right.
Just going back through the Patriot thing real quick. Like, you go back to 2018, no player on the 2018 Patriots allowed more than 3 sacks over the course of the entire season.
Right. And so but that's Joe Alt, and I know he changed size. I understand that he went from left to right, and I get that. But for me, for a guy that, in my opinion, was that level of a player, I don't care what anyone says about Will Campbell. Will Campbell's not Joe Alt. Like, he's not. Never going to be Joe Alt. Joe Alt was a generational left tackle position, a generational left tackle player. Will Campbell's not that. I think Will Campbell's good, but Will Campbell's not that. If Will Campbell can give me something around this, doesn't have to be exactly this, but if he can give me something around this that Joe Alt gave last year, I think that would be a massive success, and I'd feel really good about going into next year. Now, again, if it's a little bit lower, then okay, I can deal with a little bit lower than that as well, right? But he's got to have to give me something around this, even if it is that 6-7 sacks, even if it's up to 8 sacks, over the course of the season. But again, it's, where's that growth coming from? Do we see the growth happening? Do we see him doing better against those inside moves, which he's had trouble with, right? Do we, and then it also revolves around the run blocking too. So we'll see. I just think, we have to pump the brakes on it a little bit, because I don't think, some people, and I'm not saying you think this way, Matt, but some people think he needs to be an all-pro right now because he's your top 5 pick, and that's just unrealistic.
I think top, like a clear starter at the position, one of the best. To me, the bare minimum is to be one of the best 64 tackles in the NFL. You got to get over that bar for sure. You'd really love to be in the top 48. We'll say. So that's all. Yeah. That means you are at least an offensive tackle 2 level guy. And among left tackles, you'd like to see him be top 25 overall.
Right.
It's just, it depends. And I don't really have any doubt about him as a run blocker. It's just that left tackle is the spot on the offensive line where I value run blocking the least. It's a nice to have. It's not a need to have there. So,
all
we'll
valid.
see how this plays out. Very concerned about the interior as well.
And I think that's the biggest hurdle for me is the interior. I think that everyone was hoping that Cole Strange is going to be that guy to step in. He's looked pretty good when he played before this year. He's looked pretty good when he was healthy. And he just can't play. He just can't play. I don't know if it's, if it's the years of injury or what it is, but my goodness. I mean, you can't put him out there. And so now you're looking at it saying, all right, well, who the heck's going to be the starter now? And that's then the question, right? And can you develop a guy to become a good guard? And Caden Wallace, I think, unfortunately, has been hurt. And I think that's an issue for me. I think if Caden Wallace were healthy, maybe we could have seen something from him. But I just didn't see a time when he was healthy. But if he had stayed healthy,
look at guys like Cole Strange played today. I think didn't really notice him out there, and it's offensive line. I got to get into the tape. Tape's not out.
He made a few nice blocks, run, but I don't know. That's not.
And City so. Layden Robinson are not even getting on the field really. But they're out there only a little bit. And the guys who are playing are not good. So if they're not getting out there, Caden Wallace did play. I thought I only noticed Caden Wallace once today, but I thought he had a nice pass block rep. So maybe Caden Wallace, now that he's healthy and given the turnover at left guard in this next week, starts to push for that, Maybe Caden Wallace is in the J.C. Jackson Giants preseason week award.
Yeah, right. See, you never know.
I don't know exactly what an offensive lineman would have to do during a preseason game to cement a roster spot like that. I don't know. Maybe we're going to throw a touchdown pass to Caden Wallace as a guard. I'm not really sure how that works, but maybe Josh McDaniels is going to pull something out. I don't know. But right now, I only have 7. I have 7 offensive linemen, maybe 8 offensive linemen I'm interested in keeping right now. So there's 1, 2, 3 spots to be fought for.
And then we'll see. Nikhil asked an interesting question. He did actually. He asked that to both of us. I guess I'll throw this one up because it has both of our names on it. But did we make the right choice by taking May instead of Joe Alt in 2024? I think the answer to this question is unquestionably yes.
Yes.
Unquestionably yes. It's the most important position in football. You had to get that guy. I think that Drake May is that guy. Now, if you're telling me that you could have guaranteed we get the number 1 pick and we could have gotten Cam Ward, would I prefer Cam Ward and Joe Alt to Will Campbell and Drake May? I don't know if I do, to be very honest with you. I think Cam Ward looked good at times, but I'm not sure. So
I haven't watched a lot of Cam Ward. I've only seen 3 or 4 clips, but May was 100% the right pick.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was my pick.
Tackle might be as hard to find in the NFL these days. Quarterback is.
Right.
So, and I think we talked about this on our podcast all offseason, which was that if the Patriots had the option to trade back at this year's class and take a tackle, any of the tackles went on top of this class at 15 instead of sticking at 4 and taking 1, we would have preferred that, and that's just not an option in this year's class.
Well, again, imagine if you had lost that game to Buffalo and you had the number 1 pick and Tennessee had the number 4 or 5 pick and you had traded back with Tennessee, picked up next year's first-round pick and drafted Will Campbell. Wouldn't we be feeling really good about where we're at right now?
Or no, there's another possibility here is that you just take Travis Hunter number 1.
Well, that's true.
Left tackle might still be an issue, but your wide receiver core is going to be Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, and Travis Hunter.
That's a good point.
I feel very good about that.
That's also a good point. So,
and your defensive backs is going to be Carlton Davis, Christian Gonzalez, and Travis Hunter.
That's a great point too. So it's all of those things kind of rolled up into one. Listen, what I would have done is traded my 2nd round pick, my 3rd round pick, my 4th round pick, my 5th round pick, and my 1st round pick from this year, and got the number 5 pick and drafted Joe Alt. But the Chargers would have never done that. And so it doesn't matter that I wanted to do that because they would have never accepted that deal. So, it's one of those things for me where I look at it and say, yeah, sure. That for me is where I'm at with that, is that we made the right choice. I said it last year. You have to have the quarterback. They drafted, I believe, the right quarterback. And now you got to hope that Will Campbell sticks at left tackle, and you made the right pick there. And if you didn't, then you have to live with that, and you bump him into left guard and try to go find a left tackle and a right tackle as well. So, we'll see if they're able to do that. But man, it's if he works out, you're talking about Christian Gonzalez, Drake May, and then Will Campbell, and those can be your three cornerstone pieces. Like, you could totally change your team from those three drafts. And again,
don't forget Julian Ashby.
That's a great point.
Cornerstone players.
That's a great point. 4 cornerstone players right there. But I think as bad as those 2 drafts were, to get Gonzalez and May out of those 2 drafts, that's huge. So we'll see.
Henderson looks awesome. It's just, it seems like we're not messing up the first rounders for the most part, but the late days 2 and 3 overall have been really rough to this team for the last 5 years.
But I will say that could turn around this year. If you're talking about Travion Henderson, right? If you're talking about Travion Henderson, if Craig Woodson's going to start, if Woodson's going to start right out the gate and has looked pretty good, and Jared Wilson. Yeah, he might be struggling right now, but he was raw coming out. If we've seen some flashes from him and he can develop into a good player, man, like that, you could hit on your first, and then Kyle Williams, if he can, consistently win and the quarterback can get him the ball, you're talking about your first, 5 players all being pretty good. And I think that makes a huge difference, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's all I got.
Yeah.
What's our calendar this week? We're doing another show.
We're doing another
Monday.
I think Monday, and then obviously we'll probably go Thursday right after the game. I would think as soon as the game ends. We may even go before the game ends, to be honest with you. That last kind of, middle of the fourth quarter or something like that. But
we'll do a Monday night little preview of that. I don't think that'll be a super long episode, but we'll just talk about what we're looking for in the preseason finale. And then week after that, 53-man roster
breakdown.
I think now we got.
I'm back to school.
The next week, I think we've got a little Sunday night show, or some point during that Sunday, we're gonna have a show doing 53-man roster projection once everything's baked, and then Tuesday night we'll be reacting to what the actual 53-man roster looks like.
Yeah. So my assumption would be just to kind of play it out for you guys for the next 2 weeks. Looks like Monday, Thursday this week. Then next week might actually be Sunday, Tuesday, to give you the 53-man roster projection, our final one, and then to give you the Tuesday reacting to the 53-man roster. And then there's really going to be nothing to talk about the rest of that week. That's it. If they make a trade or they do something like that, maybe we'll jump on to do something short, but probably wait until that next week and then get into our roster prep. Also, one thing for you people, just so you know, Wednesday at 10:30 in the morning, the morning show, 10:30 in the morning on Monday, we have our fantasy football preview. I have Andrew Cooper coming on, who last year was Fantasy Sports Writer of the Year. Pretty exciting. Ran the Scott Fishbowl live draft in Boston. Great guy. He's coming on. We're going to do what we've done in the past, which is a live draft, a live mock draft, probably 9-10 rounds, talk about a ton of guys, get his opinion on players. So you guys can jump in the chat, ask questions about players that you're not sure about. We're going to go over, obviously questions that we have in that situation. We're probably going to I like picking in the middle there when we're doing something like that, 5th, 6th overall, and then just talking about guys. Here are guys that went. Here are our choices. What are we trying to do? roster building, and then also the guys that are there. So, anyways, so that's what you guys got to have coming up. So we'll see you Monday, we'll see you Wednesday morning, and then we'll see you again Thursday night after the game, and then Sunday, Tuesday the week after that, and then we'll get into our first game week.
Yeah, which I will be away for the midweek episode lead into week 1, but I will be back for the game, so I'll be there for the post game show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so we'll probably
flying back in Saturday. It'll be flying back in Saturday night from the West Coast, so I'll have to adjust very quickly to the time change.
I love it. Oh my goodness.
Get back into bed, so I'm up for the game on Sunday.
Yep, there you go. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate you. Be good to each other, and go Pats.